Have you ever heard of a hotel where everyone who checks in just vanishes? They walk through the front doors, drop their bags in their rooms, and then they're never seen again. It sounds like something out of a horror movie, but for one hotel, it's a terrifying reality. It all started as whispers. A creepy urban legend passed around to spook tourists. A cursed hotel, hidden in plain sight, right in the heart of the city. People would laugh it off, dismissing it as just another tall tale. But then, the disappearances became real. From the outside, the hotel was stunning. It had all the charm of a bygone era grand chandeliers casting a warm glow, plush carpets that muffled every footstep, and rooms with heavy velvet curtains that made you feel like you were royalty. But the moment you stepped inside, that feeling of luxury would curdle into something else, something unsettling. Guests who stayed there started noticing strange things almost immediately. There was this constant, unnerving sensation of being watched, as if unseen eyes were following your every move. The walls seemed too thin, carrying sounds that shouldn't be there. The floorboards would creak and groan, even when no one was walking on them. And then there were the whispers, faint, ghostly voices echoing down the hallways, too soft to make out the words, but just loud enough to send a shiver down your spine. At first, it was easy to dismiss. Just the normal sounds of an old building settling, right? But then the odd occurrences grew more specific, more personal. Guests started noticing that their names, which they had just written in the check-in ledger, would mysteriously vanish from the records. It was like the hotel was erasing them, pretending they had never existed at all. And when they would ask the staff about it, they'd just get these placid, empty smiles. Their eyes were vacant, lifeless. It was like they were puppets, going through the motions without any awareness of the darkness swirling around them. But the real mystery wasn't in the strange noises or the disappearing names. It was what happened when people tried to check out. Or rather, when they didn't, they would just vanish. Poof, gone. No luggage left behind. No frantic phone calls. No final goodbyes. The rooms would remain locked from the inside, and when the staff finally forced their way in, they would find them completely empty. The beds were perfectly made, the towels untouched. It was as if no one had ever even stepped foot inside. One night, a young couple, let's call them Mark and Sarah, checked into the hotel for a romantic weekend getaway. They were excited, looking forward to a relaxing stay away from their busy lives. They'd heard the rumors about the hotel's haunted reputation, but they just laughed it off. They thought it was part of the charm, a clever marketing gimmick to add a little mystery. They checked in, full of excitement and energy. But the moment they walked into their room, a wave of unease washed over them. There was a strange, earthy smell in the air, almost like damp soil after a heavy rain. The windows were set unusually high on the walls, making it impossible to see out. And no matter how they adjusted the blinds, the room remained shrouded in a dim, dreary light, even in the middle of the day. They tried to shrug it off, telling themselves they were just tired from the journey. They decided to take a nap before heading out to explore the city. But that night, things took a terrifying turn. They were jolted awake in the dead of night by the sound of footsteps pacing back and forth in the hallway, right outside their door. Mark cautiously opened it, peering into the corridor. There was no one there, just a long, empty hall stretching into darkness. They tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was another guest, or just their imaginations playing tricks on them. But the strange occurrences didn't stop. The floorboards in their own room began to creak at odd hours. The bed would sometimes shake, just a tiny, almost imperceptible tremor, as if someone was standing right beside them in the dark. And then, the whispers started again. They were faint at first, but they grew louder, more distinct. Soon, they were calling their names. Mark, Sarah. Overcome with fear, they decided they had to leave. They didn't care about the money. They just wanted out. But when they tried to open their door, it wouldn't budge. The lock was jammed tight. Panic began to set in as they threw their shoulders against the wood. Finally, with a loud crack, the door flew open. But the hallway they stumbled into wasn't the same one they'd seen earlier. It was different. The walls were darker, covered in what looked like patches of mold and decay. The elegant light fixtures flickered erratically, casting long dancing shadows that seemed to writhe and twist. Desperate to find the lobby, they turned a corner, but the hallway just kept stretching on, twisting into impossible, nonsensical angles. The hotel felt alive, like a predator toying with its prey, rearranging itself to keep them trapped. The further they ran, the more the hotel changed around them. Doors appeared where there had been solid walls just moments before. Windows materialized, but they looked out onto empty, fog-shrouded streets that didn't exist in the real city. It was a labyrinth, and it was closing in. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they stumbled into the main lobby. But it had completely transformed. The grand chandeliers were gone, replaced by a single, bare bulb that cast a sickly yellow light. The receptionist, a pale man with the same empty eyes as the other staff, was standing behind the desk. He smiled at them, a slow, chilling grin that held no warmth. "Leaving so soon?" he asked, his voice a soft, deathly whisper. "Please, let us out," Sarah begged, her voice trembling with panic. "Just let us leave." The receptionist said nothing. He simply raised a hand and pointed slowly toward the front entrance. But when they turned to look, the door was gone. In its place was a swirling black void, a pit of absolute darkness that seemed to pull at the very air around them. The couple screamed, a sound swallowed by the suffocating silence of the hotel. They finally understood. They weren't just guests. They were the next meal. The hotel had claimed them, just as it had claimed so many others before. Days later, after their friends and family couldn't get in touch with them, the police were called. When they arrived, the hotel looked abandoned, locked up tight from the outside. There was no sign of Mark and Sarah, no sign of any staff, and the hotel's guest records, completely blank. It was as if the couple and the hotel itself had never even been there. The investigation went cold, just like every other investigation connected to that place. Every guest who had ever stayed there had vanished in the exact same way. No clues, no witnesses. Just empty rooms and a history of disappearances that defied all logic. Some people say the hotel is cursed, a place tainted by some unspeakable tragedy from long ago. Others believe it's something far worse. They say the hotel isn't just a building. It's a living entity. It doesn't just make people disappear. It consumes them, absorbing their souls and making them a permanent part of its structure, their whispers forever echoing through its halls. And the name of this place? It's called the Astoria. So if you ever find yourself in a new city and see a beautiful, old hotel with that name, maybe just keep on walking. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there.